Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week we'll explore joints, movement around that kind of pivoting arc that we may have familiar in our elbow, our knee, our ankle, and some of our other ways of connecting our system, skeleton, and muscle. But not so much necessarily about the body, just taking that as a cue for the way we think about drawing and geometry. There'll be some lines, simple lines, a segment, and we'll divide it, rotate it, move it around the page, keep track of our actions, our operations of manipulation and transformation, and let it unfold and branch into some kind of complex system. The nature of the joint in a rotational system is a bit of arc to it. There's always a circle, a center, and a radius of some kind, and that can be kind of challenging to draw. So we'll look at leveraging our tool a little bit as a device for measuring the interaction of an angle, and we'll use our eye and perceptual similarities within the network of lines to get it close. But don't worry if everything is perfect. If you want to do something like this exercise and create a more direct and precise map, you could get a compass so you can make each turn exactly what it's intended to be, and that might become an interesting longer form exercise to generate a drawing, an idea, potential something from this simple system we'll explore today. I might switch back and forth a little bit between pen and pencil just for light lines and more emphasis, but anything should work. We got a piece of Bristol paper, sketchbook, notepad, printer paper, anything will be just fine. We'll start with a little warm up, just on a note card or the back of a piece of paper to get started with the exercise and then move into a longer form exploration. Go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Part of the meditation will be on movement, but using just a simple line and its connection to geometry. So that line can rotate and I suppose divide or combine with other lines and keep it simple to those operations. Might be some parts of it that are a little challenging in terms of precision to deal with rotation or arc or a bit of a circle. So you do your best. It doesn't matter if it's perfectly exact, and we'll be working at a scale that we can kind of eyeball it. But for the warm-up, to get a sense of it, somewhere on a little piece of scrap, just draw a segment line. And like a door, that whole line could rotate around 360, so it becomes a bit of a radius. Doing that by eye, if you're good at drawing circles, then great. If not, you can kind of guess an arch or get familiar with kind of the length, or even use your tool a little bit by placing it about the same length as the line and just doing a little bit of a rotation so you have a sense of where it might end up. And what we'll do is kind of track these short rotations loosely and redraw the line in place. And as the exercise goes on, we'll treat that line as something that could be made of many segments. So anywhere along it, for instance, I could pick a point. Knowing that shorter distance, I can kind of get by eyeballing somewhere out and then rotating it around, whether using the tool to help with the finger or just kind of the eye. And I might switch back and forth a bit between pencil and pen to do kind of the construction of the movement versus the kind of harder rendering of the line. And then as any segment has divided, for instance, this segment here would take its own journey around its circle out somewhere to the side. And so this simple segment of line can divide, fold, unfold, and kind of wander its way out into the page. And if we get ambitious with some of it, we can even take a smaller chunk like an L segment or multi-part zigzag, break it down into its components of a single straight line, a bit of a hypotenuse to that triangle, rotating that straight line system. It's a little easier to transpose, and then reconstructing close to accurate the whole compound shape. But as you move along, you might find opportunities to do some of those things see what comes, or keep it simple as it just branches, fragments, rotates, and wanders out as we bring a lot of our attention to that care in a more large geometric movement of rotation and the simple rendering of the line. As we enter into the longer form exercise, just taking a couple of moments as you breathe, a little heavier than normal, but natural, kind of relaxed inhalation and exhalation. Just move around a little to the body, move it a little side to side, maybe a little twist. Noticing how the hips are supported, and how the hips support the back of the spine. And moving up into the shoulders, noticing how they hang, the arms down, suspending them from our joints. A little to the neck, a more complex pivot. Just move it around a little to feel it out. Make sure there's no ink building up there. Let it be relaxed with the breath. Or focusing in for a while on a page. Could be a position that brings some fatigue. Finally, maybe with the instrument down, just a little play with the fingers, wiggling them around, and feeling each of those segments rotate and flex together through their joints, little straight lines that can become one longer moment or an articulation of several little movements. And as you feel ready, taking a nice entering breath, filling out, zipping in up to the top of your volume, and letting it flow out with a little emphasis, a little sigh, opening up and awakening, looking at the page again, fresh eyes, fresh environment and interface, and finding a place for that first segment of line. Not too long, not too short, somewhere with a lot of focus and intention, good inhalation, marking out, make that first segment. An inch or two, give or take, longer, has more places to divide, shorter, it may become more compound, something accessible. And with that first segment in place, looking at it on the page, think about where it can move. Think about whether you look at the whole segment or just a part of it to begin the journey. I think I'll begin branching right away just to keep things smaller and a little easier to access. I said it might help to oscillate between a light device and a heavy device. But feel free to play as you do. And you choose a place to divide the line, whether that's the ends or somewhere in the middle. Put a little mark to take note of where it is. Think about how you'll move that segment around one of its endpoints as a center of rotation, whether that's using your tool or a general eyeballing of distance. And then mark a rough circle moving through space. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. The shorter the arc, the more look okay. The longer the arc, the more we have to bring our attention to the circle. So we'll oscillate between those expressions. With the motion in place, we can mark out the new segment of the line. You might bring a little attention to drawing of that segment. You get lighter or darker, change as it has taken its branch and stepped off from the beginning. And on your own journey, free to explore in here, any segment as they multiply can be the place of a starting I'm going to move back to the original, take the other part of the line, and rotate it off in another direction, starting at that tangent, just like kind of working a circle around. It'll be a little sketchy at first if it's a little uncomfortable to draw the circle. Maybe you get a ways around and notice. You want to verify, bring in the tool, rotate it, the arc, feeling kind of close. Find the place to stop the motion. And tracing back over, feeling through the motion. And marking a new segment of line when you have it all set up. And you're thinking about how that line is drawn onto the page, heavier, lighter, dashed, or full length, continuous, anything you can play with in development of a dynamic system, each action providing a new potential little life to something. Now, with 3 segments or 4, depending on how you look at the divisions, each one again accessible, letting the eyes take it in, and taking a breath or two and putting the pencil or pen down. You might divide the next one, thinking about its rotation, reinforcing a direction that's already there, or playing counter games, each time a new chance to gauge that decision. Working an arc into the paper, deciding if it helps to have a device to measure, even just checking the length against features on your pen or pencil, and checking them in a new orientation to be kind of close, marking out the beginning and the end of that movement arc, and then letting the line segment move and form again. And for the next few, move at your pacing, we'll start to find connection deeper inwards to our relaxation of the breath. Taking each step along the way, choosing the segment, defining of the rotational direction. The checking of the distance, marking of the beginning and the end of the segment, completion of its action. All starting to align, tune to the breath, whatever format that might become for you. Maybe a breath in to find place. Define it with a little dot on the exhalation. Breath in to notice the measurements. Breath out to work through the rotation, just visually choosing the place to begin and end. A breath in to be ready for the arc, an exhalation to form it onto the paper. Finally, that completion of the act, transposing, breathing in at the start of the line, and exhaling its completion out of the page. Intention of its weight or value. Perhaps a system, perhaps just an arbitrary variation in the system. And finding that rhythm in, really focusing for a few of them just on the pacing of the breath, the pacing of each broken down part of a complex action. Finding your connection to it again. The arcing, circles can be a bit challenging. We're just working with lines, so we can always just test the line, Understand its rough length relative to something. Find that length out in space and adjust the arc. The arc, a recording of our intended action. The segment, the artifact of that action. Really being present with the breathing in, letting that help open up a space, decisions, direction of the rotation, the orientation of the new segment spawned from before, the marking of action. And as you get comfortable with the way of working, those breaths become more even, natural pace. Breath in to place, breath out to mark. Breath in to locate, breath out to transpose, locate. Each decision given some presence in the mind. Some space for thinking it through. Some space for checking. Some space for seeing the effects. Thinking about how they become a record of one action, but also connected to the whole. With the system established, a pacing, a rhythm about each moment, take a few minutes just to draw in the quiet ambience of wherever you are, absorbing into the drawing act, finding your pace, your comfort with accuracy, the shape, form of things taking place. Enjoying those minutes of contemplation. Set of fixed elements, we start to find the limits of divisions, so we can always redivide, recombine things at any level. Pieces tend to get a little smaller and to reach towards each other and maybe cramp the space. And at any point, we can start a new journey, a new segment somewhere on the page, or maybe choose to explore more compound movement, taking two segments, an L shape, connecting their start and end points into just a single line again, lightly described, finding bend in the elbow, bringing it back at a right angle to the longer hypotenuse of the triangle. Now we just have a single segment to work with, familiar the ways of rotating it, checking it, getting a sense of its movement through space. once just a single segment is moved along the rotation, and draw it again lightly, check its length a little bit, find the right angle, bisects it, and redraw that height displacement measurement, taking each step with a breath, noticing the direction something now realigns to, and completing a more compound shape, rotated through space. Expanding, growing the system in a more complex way, opening up more chance for new branching, new play. As the moves become tighter and smaller or more complex, you can also just take that opportunity to start a new little organism. That one new line divided somewhere along its length, rotated through space, lightly figured with our eye, and marked down as a new entity. Moving perhaps a little quicker if it's comfortable, knowing the way the game plays out, following a set of general guidelines or rules, getting close to the segment length of the line, noticing if things get a little off, and measuring, adjusting as needed, recording those actions of connecting the eye with the drawing, seeing where things are and recording how they get there. Playing some games of heavy and light, thick and thin, each segment its own character. Its own chance to express the line, become more solid, more shape, more light, or just a passage between points. Let the mind play in the game. Seeing an opportunity, knowing the ways to engage with it, playing it out, experiencing the result of emotion, leading back into that, create something new. And then the last few minutes of the exercise as you Your mind knows a bit of the game. Your hands and your eye are playing it out, a form of thinking on the page, calculating angles, rotations, lengths, new positions, the mind working, the hand engaged in part of that new formation from simple geometry. The eye seeing opportunity, potential change, something light or dark, fast or slow, wide or narrow. Potential to connect or divide. The branch, grow, extend and overlap. Notice how you feel with each movement now, finding that rhythm is happening a little bit more automatic, or do the arcs and circles still cause a bit of challenge? A tricky thing to see and make in space without a tool. With a lot of practice, that may come easier. But it's an opportunity for us to visualize and see. Notice what gives us challenge, works the mind's way of seeing, what works the hand's way of interacting. Notice that keeping track of things and to manage the local moment, and then the slow observing of that larger context unfolding on the page. Go ahead and find your last segment or joint to work with. Bring it your full attention now. Final exercise of the exercise. Find a segment or group of segments that draws you in. Work through its length and width, place of rotation. Its arc of motion. Its reorientation in space. Its final reshaping onto the page. One stop along the journey of the growth, slowly bringing the pen or pencil to rest, setting them down, and bringing the mind a little bit back to those hands as we exit out of the exercise. Looking at them in context to the drawing hands, with the joints, the segments, the ones we can see in the fingers, giving them a little tension, a little movement, moving them as full lines, base of the hand, moving individual segments as it works with your hand, stretching them out fully, and then relaxing them, bringing them to a soft state for a minute, a couple of deep breaths. Feeling that relaxation from the work and the hand move through the body. And give them a little grasp, a little wiggle, and come back to the presence of the whole. And ready to move on to the rest of your day. What we might find in this one a challenging little game is that seeing of the abstract circle, a line rotated around a center in space, is a bit of a tough one. If we do it a lot every day, draw a lot of circles, you probably get pretty good at it. Right? Our eye learns to see and learns to follow the path. But there's steps along the way, noticing the length of the segment, using a tool or device to help transpose it to a new position in space. Whatever way we can learn, repetition, and practice that thing. The inspiration today for this exercise came more from adjustments to the schedule and overlaps of different things in life. I've moved the live sessions of these, which are run through Mindful Pratt, part of Pratt Institute's wellness initiatives, to the Resilience, Wellness, and Wellbeing Council, through these exercises of mindfulness and creativity. It's a live Zoom drop-ins for the community. And my summer schedule just requires a little change for classes and teaching to a different morning, and that morning happens to overlap with a different set of activities. Workout that involves more intensity of the legs, engagement of some of my personally more challenged joints, a lifetime of basketball and activity, leaving some of them slightly achy, slightly less mobile during that exercise, thinking about what could come from this in a guidance for drawing. Not the actual thing, not the leg or the ankle, not the knee bending, but the thing that's happening behind the scenes. Those straight line segments of our skeleton connected through joints of limited and directional motion, most of them rotational, one or two planes, and that inspire the geometry that's accessible to the pen or pencil, a little more abstraction, taking that center point of rotation, moving it around, change the positioning of things, but connect them to the full chain. And do the repetitions. Some of those movements big, smaller, some tense, some lighter and stabilizing. Using that as an inspiration for the start of the exercise, and then after that they kind of go. The exercise takes its path. Starts with the impetus of the intention and then unfolds through the talking, the seeing, the presence of noticing the interesting drawing. So anything can inspire creativity, deeper observation, knowing of something in another way, to its abstraction in this case, to its qualities, anything that can be translated from the real world out there to this virtual world in here of the page. Keep your eyes open, look for things you can engage with in your everyday. Take a moment to see what your eye, your mind, and this tool or instrument, or this media can do. Bring them into more attentive, observant, and mindful space of engagement. I thank you all for joining. If you got something interesting out of the exercise, let me know in the comments, share with some friends, and come back usually every week for a new episode of Mindful Drawing. I look forward to sharing with you these things that come up in my mind and translate over into experience, creative expression of finding a living system from just a simple element of a line, a few shapes. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Draw well. Thank you.